shifting focus back to the commodity markets then, and US President Donald Trump announced that India will now have to pay 25% tariffs from August 1. And India's agricultural exports to the United States stand at about 5 billion US dollars, while imports from US stand at just 1.5 billion dollars. India exports shrimp, basmati rice, coffee, tobacco to the US, and shrimp and rice alone contribute nearly 60% of the total $5 billion export that India does to US. In fact, India also exports a total of $7.4 billion worth of seafood to the world, and out of that, nearly 35% goes to the United States. So what impact will this have on India's agri market, especially the shrimp market and other agri segments? To discuss exactly this, we are now joined by Mr. G. Chandrasekhar, independent commodity expert. Mr. Chandrasekhar, apologies for keeping you waiting, and thanks so much for joining us today. First up, if you can tell us, how do you assess this entire situation, and will this have a meaningful, significant impact on India's agri market, because we export nearly $5 billion worth of goods to the US?
The first point is August 1 is tomorrow. Whether this is a serious threat or it's still an empty threat and a negotiating point, we still don't know. But we must assume that from 1st August, these tariffs will become applicable. India actually enjoys a $45 billion trade surplus with the US. 88 to 89 billion dollars our export, and our import is only about 43 or 44 billion dollars, of which, as you rightly said, $5 billion is the agriculture export and $1.5 billion is the agriculture import. So this is what Mr. Trump wants to correct. He wants to reduce the trade surplus with India, and he wants India to import more, and therefore he's threatening to impose tariffs on India's export to the US. Yes, surely India, if the tariffs are indeed imposed and operationalized, yes, India's export of seafood, marine products in particular, shrimp in particular, will certainly be affected. Of course, also basmati rice export. But what is important is that we need to improve our competitiveness. Tariff is one part, but we need to set our house in order to ensure that this tariff shock is absorbed by the domestic manufacturing industry. For example, the marine product exporters, can they cut costs? Can they improve their efficiency so that they're able to absorb at least a part of the cost? This is one. The second one, also look at the last few days, the rupee has begun to depreciate. It's something like 87.4 rupees to a dollar yesterday. I don't know what the rate is today, but that also gives to India a certain advantage, a certain ability to absorb this tariff shock. But more important, as I said earlier, we need to improve our efficiency, reduce our cost, and improve our competitiveness. Yes, these tariffs are certainly going to affect Indian farm export, agriculture export, particularly highly labor-intensive products like the marine foods, of which shrimp, of course, is an integral part of that, and even rice for that matter. I'm also honestly worried about going a little beyond agriculture. What about textiles? What about gem and jewelry? What about leather products? They're all highly labor intensive as far as India is concerned. And if the threatened tariff does stick 25% from tomorrow, if it comes to stick, then I think there is going to be a certain challenge in India from a production perspective, export perspective, and labor intensity point of view. And therefore, I think negotiations forward, we are at the verge of signing an agreement, but I don't know what's stopping. Yes, there is a challenge as far as Indian agri-export is concerned, about which there is no doubt at all. To what extent the US consumers will be able to absorb the new tariffs on shrimp, for example, on basmati rice, for example, that remains to be seen. In my view, I think a part of the tariff burden which Indian products will face in the US possibly consumers will be able to absorb because US economy is still doing well. Consumer confidence is still high. There is still enough resilience, at least in the second quarter that we have seen. So that also we need to wait and watch. But we need to put our house in order, improve our competitiveness, reduce
Understood.
cost of production, increase our efficiency.
Okay, increase our efficiency and we need to put our house in order. That's the word coming in. But US, I understand, is not a very big market. But that loss
Yes,
of sales to the US, can
yes.
it be compensated by any other country? I understand we also signed a deal with UK last week. Will all of that make up for the loss of sales to US?
To some extent, UK may be able to absorb some of the export products that are going to be affected. But after all, UK is not a big market, not as big as the US anyway. And then therefore, we should now try and diversify our markets. We need to diversify the destinations. Look more at Europe, look more at the Far East, look more at all developed economies. You have Japan, Korea, Australia, and of course the Middle East. I think we need to look at newer markets. We need to deepen and widen our not only the existing markets but also cultivate newer markets. It's a challenge. It's not going to happen overnight. But we must first recognize that yes, there is a challenge that is confronting us, and therefore we need to strategically move forward to deepen and widen our markets.
Okay, and also because you're saying UK is not as big a market for India now that US doors are also shut for agri exports,
Yeah.
which other market you think will probably ramp up going forward and India can work to increase their exports to any particular market globally?
Yeah, as I said, for example, seafood or even basmati rice, which is a premium rice, it will be high income countries, obviously. And therefore, Europe could be a good target market. Canada could be a good target market in North America. You look at Japan, you look at Korea, you look at Australia, all the high income countries, what are called OECD economies. OECD economies are high income countries, developed countries. They should logically become our markets.
Okay, so several markets where perhaps India could work on to increase their exports. So Mr. Chandrasekhar, thank you so much for taking your time out and joining us here on ET Now and helping us understand what the impact of that 25% duty will be on India's agri exports. But Don.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.